You've been holding everything together for your family, for your friends, for people who don't even know they've been leaning on you. And now you feel completely tired. But it's way deeper than just feeling tired. It's on a soul level. It's something inside of you that is breaking down. Not just because you are exhausted from the role you've been playing, but because a part of you knows that this role is done and you're now stepping into something new. Maybe for the first time, you're actually letting this to happen. You're realizing you can't keep giving from a place that hasn't been filled in years. You can't keep fixing other people's chaos while yours goes untouched. And you can't keep being the healer when you're the one bleeding. You're no longer aligned with the wounded healer archetype, the identity, the one built on overgiving, overfunctioning, and self-abandonment. This identity is done. And it's not your fault you became that version of you. Obviously, it was the way you survived. It was programmed and it got you here. So before you blame yourself, before you judge yourself, slow down and notice that as much as it was hard and tough, it also brought you to here. And the same force that brought you to here is now teaching you to elevate your level of awareness so you can fully integrate all other parts of energy or aspects of energy. So you can feel empowered, so you can feel whole and complete once again. That's what you're stepping in. So the old identity of yours, of the wounded healer archetype, is over. And the collapse that you feel right now is not failure. It's the beginning of freedom you're stepping in. So before I go further, I just want to talk a little bit to all of you, the light workers or light warriors, however you call yourself, to anyone who resonates with these messages. You are one of us. Maybe you're just someone who feels everything, who always ends up being the helper, who's deeply intuitive, and even if you don't talk about it, you just sense it. Or maybe you're someone who's been called too sensitive, too intense, or too deep. Who are light workers? Those are people with a natural sensitivity to energy, emotion, and injustice. Those are people who feel called to help, to heal, or to elevate others, even if they're never trained in anything spiritual. They just naturally know what to do. So they often don't feel so attracted to the modern spirituality. They rather just follow the nature. Those are also those whose nervous system has often been wired for protection, attunement, and survival, usually from childhood. And light workers are those who hold consciousness in spaces that are asleep. Those are also those who remember, even if they don't know how they remember, that there's more to life than just survival. So often people call this kind of people empaths, healers, starseeds, intuitives, space holders, cycle breakers, awakeners, and conscious leaders. So if you resonate with this kind of words, that means you are one of them. And you are going through a big transition right now. The old identity of yours is ending, because now is a time of your healing, of your integration. So you've carried a very unique frequency in a world not built for sensitivity. And you've probably been hurting because of that for a long time. That's why the next part of this message is very important for you. Being a light worker doesn't mean you're enlightened. It often means you've survived a lot of darkness and kept your heart open, even though for you it may feel it's closed, but you still sense. So let's be honest, my friend. The pain you carry didn't start with your mission. It started in your nervous system long before you could name it. And I want to break it down so it can make more sense to you. The first wound that some of you have experienced is the parentified child. It's a wound that often happens to those who were emotionally responsible before you were ready. Maybe your parents were chaotic, unstable, or emotionally unavailable. So you became the helper, the emotional translator, or the good one in the family. You learn that if I'm calm, I will be safe. Or if I take care of them, maybe they will take care of me. But in adulthood, this became chronic over-responsibility, or deep guilt when you rest, or attracting codependent or one-sided relationships, or fear of being too much if you have your own needs. And that led you to the need for healing. You've noticed that maybe your relationships are not healthy. People you attract into your life are maybe not people you would love to have around, and you've been maybe wondering why this is constantly happening. So here's how healing happens in this area. Validating the part of you that was never nurtured is very important, because you need to firstly notice what was never nurtured about you. Acknowledge it and start nurturing that. Because yes, you need to become your own nurturer, and notice that actually it's okay to give yourself what no one gave you. Then letting go of the role of emotional manager, because you're not here to fix others or to make others feel a certain way, even though it may feel very good and often rewarding. It's also exhausting. And when you don't have capacity for that, it means that you've been doing too much of it. Letting go of the role of emotional manager is very important, because you recognize that the only person you can manage is yourself. And when you learn to manage yourself, you become the example of someone who's well managed. And that's how you actually teach others, by managing yourself. And another way to do the healing is reparenting yourself with consistency and truth, something that maybe you haven't received. So what does it mean? Well, reparenting yourself with consistency means that you become a mentor to yourself. So there's a lot of self-work here, and something that I found that is very valuable is that you go within and you find connection with Source or God. So you notice that there is guidance that is helping you to reparent yourself. But also when you go on this journey, you will meet people that are archetypes of sometimes maybe more ideal father or more ideal mother. Like I remember when I've started my company, I met a business mentor that was a woman, a lady, very loving person. And soon I've recognized she's like an ideal mother archetype for me. And that's when I've started noticing that when we choose to level up, when we choose to heal, when we choose to evolve, the universe will bring into our lives people who will show us how to be better or how to heal parts of us that need healing. So become open for that. And notice that it's not your job to fix other people's feelings, but it is your job to heal yourself, so you stop repeating patterns of the old you. Then the second wound that Lightworkers are healing right now, so they are leaving the old identity behind, is the savior complex. You may have found identity in helping others, which is very beautiful because it gave you purpose. It kept you connected, but it also became a trap because you attracted people who need you, but don't meet you. You became addicted to fixing because if you're not helping, you don't know who you are. And if that resonates with you right now, this is what healing means to you. Disentangling your worth from your usefulness is very important here. So you may think that more you're useful for others, more worthy you feel. But actually worthiness comes from being. And the easiest way to experience that is to lay down on the ground and just feel yourself and notice that your sense of worth comes out of your heart beating, out of your lungs breathing air, out of your being, out of your experience for life. And then all the beautiful things you find there and all the unique parts of you that you discover when you return back to yourself, that's where your worthiness truly comes from. Out of ability to be you and to express what uniquely comes through you. And training yourself to feel that your worthiness actually comes from being you is a great work. Then another part to healing this means trusting that others have their own soul path. So it means that others go through their own lessons, through their own trial and error. So instead of trying to fix them, learn to understand them and be there when someone asks you for guidance. Another part to healing the saver complex is learning to sit with discomfort without trying to solve it. This is very strange at the beginning, but very rewarding because mind will go, your ego will go, oh, I need to figure this out. I need to find out how to fix this or how to change that. But if you sit with it for enough time, clarity will emerge, and clarity will very gently whisper to you that everything is okay and here's what to do. And another way to heal the saver complex is saying to yourself, I can hold space, but I will not carry your life for you. This is very important. Write in the comment section, what do you feel that is your wound? Because that's also how you show to other people that they are not alone. The third wound is unmet emotional needs. So many light workers were emotionally neglected, not necessarily abused, just never seen, never mirrored, never celebrated for who they were. And I'm sure there's so many of us that are feeling that. That turns into a hunger for validation, a hyper focus on being good, a people-pleasing disguised as compassion, or collapsing boundaries to avoid rejection. I'm sure many of you may resonate with that because, well, I've been through this as well, and I know it's not easy to notice that, but when we become aware of it, we already start healing it because we notice the pattern when it turns on, and then we catch ourselves and we choose to treat situations differently. Healing unmet emotional needs means identifying your core emotional needs, maybe safety, maybe being understood, or maybe being chosen, or whatever it is, and then providing that to yourself. So you stop seeking the need to receive that from someone else or to give that to someone else. You give it to yourself, so you learn how feeling safe actually feels, how feeling understood actually feels, how being chosen actually feels, because you give that to yourself. And once you experience the completion of that experience, you know that no one actually can provide you that. Sure, it's beautiful to be in a wonderful relationship, but it's hard to be the best you in a relationship if you don't know how to make yourself feel safe or feel understood or feel chosen. That's why I'm playing today a painting to you that I've created some time ago that's called I see you that's actually made out of fragments, out of tiny pieces that may remind you of yourself. You're also made out of these fragments and different pieces that you're slowly putting together. That's what it means to understand yourself. Also, healing unmet emotional needs means meeting them internally first. Meeting your emotional needs internally first. Understanding what you need emotionally, so then you can give that to yourself. And healing also means building relationships that reflect your true self, not your performance, which means that people actually love you for who you are. So when I'm making this message today, it may sound like you can provide all of that to yourself, but actually our lives are way more complex, and that's why the universe brings us people that we're ready to meet at the right time. And as I said before, when you go onto this path of healing, you will meet the right people. So stop judging people in your life and actually start noticing what they're exposing in you that you didn't recognize before. And then rather than being maybe triggered by them or being offended by them, notice what they're opening in you so you can heal. This is very important to know, because many times then we learn that we only feel offended or triggered because we don't know how else to communicate what bothered us or what we couldn't express. And therefore, a huge part to healing is learning to communicate better. And that is uncomfortable, but very empowering when you learn to be patient with yourself and still find a way to speak up what needs to be said at a certain moment. Then the wound 4 is the spiritual bypass. Sometimes we cope with pain by over-spiritualizing it. We say things like, it's all love, or everything is a mirror, or just raise your vibration and it will get better, things like that. And while those things can be very true, they can also become a way to avoid feeling it. And healing this means letting yourself be human first. So yes, you have a human experience here, and sometimes we like to jump out of it into a dream world or into spiritual philosophies just because being human feels painful. But it feels painful just for a short time if you are willing to feel it. And then it becomes beautiful because you learn to navigate these feelings in more maybe organized way or more channeling way. Like feeling grief or anger or betrayal or confusion may feel very painful. But through time with the right person, it can be transformed into the most meaningful relationships. That's why we need to be patient. And in ancient Rome time, they said, a person is not wise if he or she is not patient. So through patience, you actually learn wisdom that grief and anger and betrayal and confusion is teaching you. So being patient with feeling betrayed or feeling pain or feeling anger and sitting with these feelings is very important. And yes, sometimes it may take months. Sometimes it may take a lot of time, but being in these feelings and finding some support, someone who can help you to navigate you through it, is very important. So you don't just bypass it, you actually move yourself through feeling it. And then eventually you find a way to channel it into something wonderful. Knowing that true light comes from integration, not avoidance, is very important when it comes to heal the spiritual bypass. So you see, deep transition happens when you understand that. What you're going through right now is not just a spiritual upgrade. It's an identity collapse. That's why it feels so confusing. You're realizing you don't want to be needed more than you're loved. And you don't want to be strong all the time. And you don't want to carry people who refuse to walk, because it's just nonsense. Everyone needs to learn to be strong. Everyone needs to learn to be independent, and everyone needs to learn to learn from their own mistakes. And sometimes it feels terrifying, especially if you always wanted to help others, because your old self was built around those things. You're stepping into a void where you don't yet know who you are without the struggle. And this stage feels like emotional waveness, like isolation, like fatigue, like cynicism and doubt. But here's what's actually happening. You're becoming a clear vessel. You're being pulled out of distortion so your true frequency can stabilize. You're no longer meant to be the safe space for dysfunction. You're now meant to be the activator of clarity, truth, and change. And that starts in your own life, which means you need to embody it first. And now comes the rebuilding. That's what you're going through right now. Not from the wounded identity, but from the whole healed one. Here's what this shift truly looks like. You go from overgiving to discernment. You only give when it's aligned. You don't explain or justify your no. You honor your capacity like it's sacred, because it is. Once again, you honor your capacity like it's sacred. Write in the comment section, I honor my capacity, and feel what it means. You go from external validation to internal alignment, which means you trust your body, you're knowing. You move from resonance, not fear. You create because it brings you alive, not because it earns approval, right? You create because it brings you alive, so you create what makes you feel alive, right? That's what we've been talking for all these years. You move from being needed to being met. You no longer tolerate unbalanced relationships. You let go of being the saver. You choose connections that reflect mutual growth. And you move from burnout to nervous system regulation, which means you prioritize your own energy. You rest when you need to. You ground. You stop hustling for some kind of maybe spiritual identity or religious identity. You trade urgency for embodiment. That is a big shift. And if you need some daily practice for that, well, daily check-ins can help you, like asking yourself, what do I need to feel safe today? Maybe not for the whole day, but just for some time in a day, just to teach yourself what feeling safe in your body feels like. Then boundaries, maybe visualize your field, cleanse it, protect it, but also practice saying no when you mean to say no. Then authenticity, authentic expression, when you choose to speak your truth. Well, even if it shakes, do it, especially when you're shaky. Then grief. Well, we all may grieve sometimes when we lose something. Also grieve who you were. Let yourself feel the release, because what you are letting go right now is a huge part of you. You're not it, but it was a huge part of you. That identity is done, but feeling the loss of it is a real feeling that you are going through. And let yourself feel it. Be grateful for where it brought you, because you don't know what would happen if you would not have this strength that this identity gave you. And Also, creative flow is very important because it teaches you to channel your feelings, to channel your emotions into maybe art, into service, into projects, into something new. Not to fix, but to express. You see, expressing yourself doesn't matter how the end product truly looks like. The point is that you brought something from the depth of your soul, and that's powerful because it's always healing. That's why I'm sharing my art with you, to inspire you. And there's so many people who are sending us messages that because of these videos they started painting or singing or dancing or whatever. It's all a form of self-expression, and it's very important. So the old light worker identity is dead. You're not here to perform light. You are light. When you're rested, clear, and in alignment, you're no longer the wounded helper. You're the embodied leader, not because you're perfect, but because you're present. You're not here to carry the world. You're here to activate your pace of the new one. This is your invitation, my friend, not to try harder, but to return home to yourself. So it's over for the audio, and what comes next is the real power. You feel it already. Let me know if you feel it. I hope you've enjoyed in today's message, and if you found it valuable, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. I'm doing daily videos like that to help you to focus on what truly matters, and share it with someone who you think that is going through something like that as well, that is healing the light workers' wounds right now. Also, if you've enjoyed in today's painting, you can get a print of it on AttractPassion.com or the link in the description of this video. If you would like to support my mission, you can buy my work on AttractPassion.com. Also join us on our Patreon community for more exclusive content. The link is also in the description of this video. Until next time, one love.